Adam Schefter at ESPN says there's 275,000 people.
Well, that was some party in downtown Detroit. 775,000 people, shattering the NFL draft attendance record.
This is the future.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is Tuesday morning. It is Rise and Grind Morning Show, and Frank Ragnow just completely shocked, and we're all in awe of what just happened. He announced his retirement, and we all got it wrong. Everyone thought it was about his contract. And I've been talking about his foot for a long time, and I think what we heard from Frank Ragnow, at least through his text, was this was about quality of life. So we're going to talk about that today. We've got a few other topics we're going to get into, but it's kind of Frank Ragnow Day, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I did last night, which maybe you think I'm weird, but we'll do all that when we get back here in about 15 seconds. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, gentlemen. Let's start your engines because this is going to be a rough one today, and let's get rolling. So good morning, Corey. Good morning, Riley. How's everybody doing?
Birthday boy, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well, man. This is look, this is where I want to be to start my Tuesday, to start my birthday right here with Will Rock, with Corey Besh, Rocked On Detroit Lions. How you doing, Corey?
Good, man. Happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday.
Than me, so we won't even bring it up. We're all sad about Frank, but we're happy for you. Happy birthday, brother.
So on the eve of your birthday, man, you probably got the worst present ever, which was Frank Ragnow retiring.
Yeah.
And then then you get to talk about it on your birthday. Like that's an easy subject to talk about because of the impact that's going to have on this team this year. At least the speculation now, the window is closed for the Detroit Lions Super Bowl. So my quick reaction from you guys, Riley, I'll start with you since you've been following the team a lot longer. Is the window closed? Are we done? Should we pack it up and just say forget it?
Absolutely not.
Corey?
It's not.
Oh, no. I mean, guys, we just got done with a season where we had a ton of injuries and you know, we were 15-2 and we should have won the playoff game, right? Like if Frank would have got injured in week 3, would we all be saying the window's closed, doors closed? Like, no, come on. Like, take a deep breath. We're going to be all right. Thank goodness we took 2 offensive linemen in the first 4 rounds of the draft. That's one thing. Brad looks like a genius.
Yeah, and Riley, go back to you, man, to finish your thought process there, you know, about the window being closed. Why isn't it? Why do you feel confident?
Yeah, I mean, there is no doubt that right now the team is worse than it was 24 hours ago. Frank Ragnow, arguably the best center in the NFL. Losing him doesn't help. But he's one player, and there is still Penei Sewell. You still have Taylor Decker. You still have Dan Campbell. You still have Jared Goff. You still have Amon-Ra St. Brown. You've got a full football team. And the reality is if Ragnow feels like he couldn't play at the level he wanted to play, he wasn't doing the team a service. So, look, he's one of my favorite players. I don't think you're going to find a Lion fan that, you know, it doesn't have anything but fond memories of an appreciation for Ragnow and the player that he has been the entire time he's been a Detroit Lion. But, you know, nothing good lasts forever. And I think that this was a surprise. It was out of left field, but it is what it is. And I appreciate Frank. But this team is still a damn good football team.
Absolutely. Look, I don't think that this ruins the season. I don't think that this shuts the window. If you even believe in a window, like I don't know where the term window came from. I mean, I understand the terminology, but to be honest, anybody could win at any given year with any given roster. At least it seems like it used to be that way decades ago. Maybe not so much the last 20 years, but I would say the 20 before that, the 80s, the 90s, it seemed like any team had a great possibility. That more teams, it seemed, were a little bit more, how do I put it? Even.
There's parity.
Yeah, not as today where it seems like there's some real lopsided teams. Now, there were some lopsided defenses back in the day, right? There were some lopsided offenses. But if you go back and look through all of the Super Bowl wins, and I've done that on this channel many times, and you look at the difference between, what team won and their offense versus defensive ranking. I mean, come on, we saw the Giants win, right? Anything can happen. And we've seen teams that have, 15th ranked offenses win and 20th ranked defenses win. So anything can happen. I mean, in life, anything can happen too. But I guess for me to kind of wrap up the Frank Ragnow thing, and we'll talk about it more, is I firmly believe that the Lions knew that there was something going on with Frank. It sounds like from his message that I read yesterday on the short live there that, he mentions the team being, very good, with him during this whole process. They knew something. My only question then is, or a lot of fans' questions, because they're saying that Brad Holmes failed then, if they knew that there was a possibility that Frank was going to retire, that Brad failed, that didn't bring in a center. And Jared Wilson was available in the third round where we took Tesla. Do you guys feel, I know this is not on the sheet, but do you feel that Brad Holmes maybe failed then by taking Tate Ratledge in the second and Tesla in the third and not going after Jared Wilson, which then would have been two Georgia guys on that Georgia offensive line coming to Detroit? Corey, I'll start with you. Do you feel that's a failure of Brad Holmes to not address that, if he ever thought that even for one moment that he was going to hang it up?
I mean, I don't see why Tate Ratledge isn't that guy. Like, he did draft him. He drafted him a round before. He drafted a hybrid that could play both positions. And I think then he followed up with Miles Frazier to say, look, okay, we got an extra O-lineman because wherever he doesn't fit, we could put somebody else in. I think he knew that he had to get depth in multiple positions. And so I don't think, specifically going for one guy in the draft was the right answer. And we know that's not how Brad really drafts in general. So I think Ratledge is, I'm not saying he's the heir apparent this year to the center position, but I'm saying that in his development, in this youth-driven culture, like you mentioned, like, where did the term window come from? I think it all has to do with age and salary, right? Like, when a team has to put together youth versus experience and pay guys versus, rookie contracts, how do you balance that? That's where people get this window. I just heard something about Brock Purdy's new contract and how that means the window's closed because he didn't get it done on his first deal. That's not, obviously that's kind of where it comes from, but I don't think that Brad failed at all. I think if anything, it's a success. Like, I think he did exactly what he knew he needed to do. And I don't think any one player specifically answers, draft questions, and no one player would replace Frank Ragnow, period. Like, there's no guarantee that a third round draft pick is going to fill the gap for an all-pro center. Like, that just doesn't happen. And
bingo. Yeah. You couldn't have said anything better than that right there. Like, a rookie third round center is not going to replace Frank Ragnow. Not today, not tomorrow, not this year, maybe next year or in a couple of seasons when he has some experience. Brad had Graham Glasgow, Riley, and he knew that he had a plug-and-play center on the roster. My personal opinion is I felt that Brad felt comfortable with what he had and that he was going to go grab pieces. If you look at what Brad did, he didn't grab center, but what did he do? To Corey's point, he grabbed a left guard and a right guard, right? He grabbed some last year. So he was preparing since last season to have these positions fixed. Brought in Giovanni Manu. He brought in Christian Mahogany, Miles Frazier, and Tate Ratledge in the last 2 drafts. So to say that Brad Holmes failed because he didn't grab a center, I just can't understand that when you're looking at what he did around the center position to make sure the rest of that offensive line had depth and insurance policies. And then, oh, by the way, neither one of those guys, Frazier or Ratledge, has played center, but they're getting cross-trained early like all of the offensive line do, and maybe one of them works out. But it's Graham Glasgow that is our center. So, Riley, back to the question. Do you think that maybe Brad was confident with what he had on the roster already to slide in to take care of Ragnow's position, for the short term, and then next season obviously look at an option? Or maybe there might be a trade opportunity for the Lions this year or by the deadline or next year. I don't know if you bring in a center at the deadline, but you get the question. You know where I'm going here.
Yeah, for sure. And to me, the answer is this simple. I don't think that Brad Holmes has made a draft selection yet where the name that he sent in was not truly the best football player in his mind available on the board. And I think that at that time during the draft, you may have had an inclination that Frank was probably going to retire, but it doesn't seem like it was a sure thing until just yesterday. And so you can't make a decision on, I'm going to pass on Tate Ratledge. And we know what he said about Tesla. That was his favorite receiver. He clarified, not the best, but his favorite receiver in the draft. You're not passing on those players for a hypothetical, maybe somewhat situation. And just like Corey said, there wasn't a center in this draft that you could just plug and replace Frank Ragnow anyway. So what do? You take the best football players for your culture that you've been establishing for years, and you continue building on what you've started building on. So I think Graham Glasgow now, in my mind, he's the starter for week 1. And we'll see if he can, fill that role. He's probably got as good a shot as anybody. Those are big shoes to fill for sure.
Definitely big shoes. And I'm not saying that this is going to be an easy fix, because it's not going to be an easy fix. And yes, this is a huge hole. I talk about the center being the most important position on an offensive line when we're talking about defensive line, when we're talking about defensive interior push and how it can create havoc on your offensive line, how it's the fastest path to the quarterback. The center is extremely important. I mean, that's the first link in the chain that you can't have break. You can break the outside links and you're still fine, right? Guys can still slide together. Their protections can still stay in good shape. But when you lose a center, we've seen what happens when Frank has been out of the game. The Lions have struggled. And whether that's a culmination of the season and what these guys go through during the season, and then you're just up against it, it's week 12 and I'm just spitballing here, but let's say it's week 12 and you've had a rough season already. Guys along the offensive line have had a few injuries, and then Frank goes down. We've seen it, and they struggle. So it's a good thing that it happened right now. It's never a good thing, but it's a good thing that it happened right now, because now the Lions have an opportunity to get prepared. And I think that is the most important thing. Having 2 practices against, the Miami Dolphins. What's the other team? Who's the other team that we have practices with this summer?
Houston,
Texans. There we go. That's going to be the test. Houston is going to be the test. Is our offensive line going to be ready? They've got a premier pass rush and a really good defensive line. So hopefully we get a lot of coverage on it, because that's going to be the test for me. Now, we're often running on topics that we don't have scheduled, because that's just the way that it goes on this show. It happens every day. But, Frank is on the tip of our tongue this morning. And obviously, before I go any further, you heard me yesterday. I'm going to say it again. I wish Frank nothing but the best. I am not mad, angry, or upset at Frank. He made a decision for him and his family and his future. And I've been talking about the injuries that Frank has gone through. I talked about it yesterday, or spoke on it yesterday. And that's, in my opinion, the biggest reason why he's hanging him up. Corey, before we jumped on this morning, you were talking about, players and quality of life. You mentioned one of your own issues. Can you walk us through why went maybe to the length that it did with Frank right now, I'm going to speculate and say that I feel he doesn't have it in him to start training camp. He probably just doesn't feel the same. When you don't feel the same and you're now a liability to yourself and others, you probably made the right decision. But the injury factor, why do you think it just, came to a head?
Football is a strange game because it goes against like what you would think of for like self-preservation. It's a sport where you're really putting your body on the line every single play and like potentially your life, right? It takes your entire if you're going to make the NFL, you dedicate everything you have to this goal, right? And this game that is seemingly like insignificant, but it becomes your identity. And I know like injuries happen and there's the concussion issue and all these other things, but the stuff you get from football, right, surpasses, like what the normal fan who hasn't experienced the game could really understand. And when Frank in his messaging wrote, like these last few months have been extremely difficult, you could hear the emotional toll it was taking on him just writing the message, right? When you have to weigh what you've done for your entire life and what your life looks like in the future, that can be a really hard decision and a transition that is extremely difficult for a lot of guys to go through. I know I struggled with it when I finished playing in college. Like, what do I do next? And when injuries are part of that equation, when you have stuff that will never get better, when you have decisions to make, am I going to be able to do these activities with my children 10 years from now? It takes its toll on you emotionally. Like, I don't know if you could hear it in my voice, but I went to the beach when I went down to Disneyland with my son, and I couldn't take my shoe off because I have a lingering turf toe injury. And it sounds so silly, like your turf toe, but like I couldn't walk in the sand with my son. And it's like, that sounds so trivial, right? But like to experience the beach like a normal human, right? And be able to run on the beach with your kid and experience that joy. That's something I can't do without being in extreme pain. If Frank is 29 now and has a foot injury that will never get better because the cartilage is gone and you can't replace it, like what does that look like in 3 more football seasons, right? What does that look like 10 years from now when his son is playing Little League and he wants to be the coach, right? These are, and of course, he's an NFL football player and he's got all these resources at him. But at the end of the day, like, this game takes so much commitment, so much dedication. And that's why I think it's so hard, because when you can't give it, when you're at like that border of, I don't know if I still have it, it's really, really hard to admit to yourself, it's best for me to step away. It's one of the hardest decisions we ever have to make. And a lot of people in different careers and different, avenues, they don't have to make that decision because they can go into retirement doing the same career they've done their entire life. But these guys can't, and they always have to think about life after football. And for them, that life can look a lot different depending on how many seasons they play, right? This is like something I talked with my brother yesterday. Said, like he's 20, Frank Ragnow's 29 years old. That is crazy to me. That is absolutely insane that he's 29 and he's retiring, but it's a decision that he has to make. And I said, bro, how long do you want to play? He's talking about playing to 30, 34. I'm like, dude, you're going to have the longest career ever. I love it. You're going to be an all-pro, obviously, on your 4th contract. I love that. Like, but bro, can you imagine what your body's going to be like after 11, 12 seasons of NFL football? Like, more power to you, but it's so specific, and it hurts me as a fellow football player to know what Frank's going through, because these next few months are going to be extremely difficult for him. To watch his team out there battling and knowing he's not helping contribute, I guarantee it will take its toll on him. Like, I guarantee there's going to be days where he thinks, I wish I was out there helping the squad. Like, and that's what the respect that goes out to Frank. That's, I think, what all Detroit Lions fans are feeling in their mourning period and grieving, right? What he did for the team. It's not about like the X's and the O's. It's about the dude who sacrificed his body for year after year when we were in the dumpster, right? Like, he was there and he helped build us to what we are today. And so to have him not along with the journey, you know, alongside us, it sucks. That's the bottom line. And injuries suck, period. Like they really, really do. And it's a part of football, but it's something none of us like.
Okay, so let me get some of the rumors out there. Like there's a lot that I could go into, but let me get a few of them. Let me get a few of them out of the way. I have heard I saw yesterday a lot of stuff, man. Just all this hatred towards Frank. But number one, I speculated when I was talking to you guys this morning that, hey, do we think that Frank is just going to do something nice for the team? Bo Booth asked earlier, you know, how much cap space is going to be relieved. I think it's about $9.5 million this year and about 7-ish, 6-ish next year. Total of, we ran through it. You know, I did the release next year. I want to say it's like 15 million. And don't quote me. I'll have to pull it up in a minute and double check. But they're saving considerable amount of money with Frank retiring. So one rumor, speculation, is Frank doing this just to help out the team to be able to do something different. Number two, Brad failed again. Should have grabbed a defensive end in the first round because now we don't have Frank. We need a better defense. Our offense is going to fail. We need to have a better defense. Like, come on, people. Are we serious with this stuff? I don't understand how people even think that way. Honestly, it's either you're so out of touch with football, don't really understand how the game operates, or you have no clue how good this team is. This offense has way too much firepower to let one individual totally derail this team or the offense. I don't think that any of that matters, honestly. There was another one. Let me see if I even wrote it down.
One of the things I think too, and just jump in here real quick, is that like when you force young guys to step up and take a role, they get better faster. Like, and so if you have four young offensive linemen, right? And now they have a real responsibility on the O-line, like their development, they have to take accountability for their development or they're not going to have a job, right? Like, and I think, you know, throwing, like it's different for an O lineman to get thrown in the fire than it is a rookie quarterback, right? Because he's part of a unit and he can learn with the guys around him, and you can scheme protections to help, you know, and run blocking is a little less of a transition for a NFL, you know, college to NFL, right? Especially in the SEC, right? You're as close to the NFL as you can get in the SEC, and you're not having to understand, you know, coverages and all these things like a quarterback. So I think, to be honest, I think knowing, like you said before, knowing and preparing now for these young guys to step in, I think is a benefit to the team to some extent.
I think so too. The last one I'm going to get to in a minute, but Riley, based on that discussion, what is your thoughts right now on some of this?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point that Corey makes too. You know, you're part of a unit, and it's not like you're running the offense now. You're touching the ball every play. I guess, you know, a center does as well, but there's less pressure when you are part of a unit. And I think Bo Booth made a comment earlier. I saw Hank Fraley. He's a big component of this. He's one of, you know, he's lauded as one of the best offensive line coaches in the NFL. This is an opportunity for him as well to coach up his players. And again, you know, I'm sure Frank has talked to Tate. I'm sure he's talked to Graham. He let these guys know, I'm probably not going to be here. So, you know, the baton's being passed to you guys. And I think he set the table for them.
That's probably one of the things that I'm like, man, to be able to be trained by Frank like that's huge. And he's not going to be around these guys. Maybe he comes back. So that was one of the other rumors, you know, that Frank is going to take a position with the Lions. Maybe in the future. I don't necessarily see him doing that this year, but who knows? I think that would be absolutely incredible if he would come back and take a position as an assistant just to be around the guys. I think that would do a lot for their psyche, right? I think that it would get these guys amped up to see Frank in the rooms and on the sideline. And I think that everyone would learn a lot. And I could see Frank being an offensive line coach in the future. Super intelligent dude. But it is what it is. Let's move off of Frank for just a moment. I want to get into a couple of other things before we lose the entire day. But man, Frank is big time. So I will share something that some of you already know this, but yesterday I was kind of upset, right? I was kind of sad because of what Frank said. It's, I've been through a lot. We've all been through a lot, but some of us have been through more things than others. And I would never measure what I've been through versus somebody else. However, I was kind of upset. I was a little ticked off that we're going into the season and now we're losing one of the best guys, on the team and one of the best leaders and a captain. But at the same time, I was happy for Frank that he was going out on his own terms and doing it his way. So I went and dug. I had to go dig a bunch of holes to plant some plants. So I dug 77 holes for Frank and planted 77 flowers, which I had to do anyway. But I just did a little tribute to Frank while I was doing it. I wanted to quit after 40. Trust me, it was a lot of work, but I did it all the way through. I thought I had a picture, but I guess I don't have it. I'll get it later. It's just a bunch of dirt, right? You just see a bunch of dirt. But anyway, what do we have up next here on this Madden curse? Let's get to some NFL news. Corey, you had something on the Madden curse, and then I want to jump into some TA stuff.
So I don't know if the fan base is familiar. It's been a while since the Detroit Lions have had a guy on the cover of Madden.
Uh-oh. Oh, wait. Sorry, Corey.
Happy
this was the next topic. This was the next rumor.
Happy birthday.
So
to
I'm sorry to cut you off, but
happy birthday,
this just had to get done today. I mean,
happy birthday to you.
Here you go, Riley.
Hey, I'm flattered. That's
Just
pretty
to
cool.
embarrass the shit out of you.
To you. Happy birthday to you.
I'm not sure. I see the
happy
graphic.
Birthday, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
I love it, man. Yeah, I'll take it.
Sorry, I had to. I had to do it, man.
Was there music to that?
Yeah, there was. It
Okay,
showed
so-
up later, but yeah, you guys probably couldn't hear it. That's the way it works. But anyway, happy birthday. Let's get into Madden curse now.
Thank you.
Oh, I can't follow up the imaginary song that I just listened to. I don't know. I thought it was like maybe a rap, like a happy birthday rap. I don't know. Oh man.
It
Anyways,
was a little child singing it, like super small.
Okay, that makes sense. I love it. I was gonna say, please don't put me on the spot. Well, I cannot sing. That's the one thing. Like I can talk sports all day, but I will not be singing. All right, Madden curse. Like I said before, I think it's been a while since Megatron was on the cover of Madden. That's the last Detroit Lion. And we know that Megatron also retired a little earlier than anyone wanted, and so maybe that's a thing that happens in Detroit. But that is not the Madden curse, right? The Madden curse is, if you aren't familiar, if you're not a gamer or you don't know what I'm talking about, when a player shows up on the cover of Madden, more often than not, their next season is hampered by something, whether that's an unsuccessful season, injuries, a fall from the face of the earth. Who knows, right? Peyton Hillis was on there, and I don't even know if Peyton Hillis is around anymore. But there's like so many different, iterations of the guy being great the year before and then just something catastrophic happening. And so it's become the Madden curse. And Madden just dropped its newest cover yesterday, and it has Saquon Barkley doing his reverse hurdle over a guy. And there was a viral video going around on the internet. Madden put it out of Saquon recording the actual jump for the photo opportunity on the cover of the Madden case. And what I was super scared about was that there's a point, and I don't know if we're not going to show it, but you guys can look it up. There's a point where he's jumping over the guy and he hovers for a second. He literally like defies gravity, and it is so obviously edited or somehow aided, because it just doesn't look like natural up and down. Like we saw it happen in real life in the game, and it was one of the most amazing football plays I've ever seen. Like, I'm just going to give it credit where credit is due. He reverse hurdled and literally blind jumps over a guy. But in the video, this dude jumps and like hangs in the air for a second and then goes back down. This does not have anything to do with the Madden curse. This has to do with the intelligence of modern day Americans. When you see something on the internet that looks messed up, please don't just assume it's real. There were people all over the internet yesterday going, "Oh my gosh, Saquon, how do you have bounce like that? How do you do it?" They couldn't tell it was fake. And I was literally dying. I was like, bruh, like, when did we lose our common sense? You guys got to watch the video. They ended up showing that he was suspended on wires, and they did a bunch of different takes to get it. But the video that they put out where, the final edited version, people were believing that it was actually him jumping and literally hanging in the air for like a half a second and before landing. We got to be better, guys. AI is getting too good. AI is going to take over our brains. And if we can't decipher what is common sense reality or not, we are in trouble, just like Saquon might be because of the Madden curse. Tell me, do you believe in the Madden curse? Do we want another lion ever on the cover of Madden? And do we think that Saquon can actually defy gravity? You guys answer.
So just from a perspective of we've had enough curses in Detroit, right? With the Bobby Lane curse, and we've seen what happens with the Madden thing. For whatever reason, you can call it a coincidence instead of a curse. I don't want any coincidences in Detroit anymore. So I'm good. Like Madden, you can leave that to the Packers, the Vikings, and the Bears. Have at it. As far as the rest goes with AI, yes, it's way too good. Matter of fact, I wish I would have known that we were going to bring this up today, because I just watched a video yesterday. And I don't remember who put it out, but they were saying, look, you have to share this with your grandparents, your parents, pretty much anybody that's a boomer or older, and show them how AI is so real, because now they are able to make things look so real. I mean, just like movies, but what used to take extremely high paid and extremely valuable individuals that knew how to make CGI look extremely real, now a 12-year-old with access to the internet can do it, right? And so they're making things that look so real that it's faking everybody out. And I relate this to politics, because it is so bad with everything that is going on right now with AI and social media. It's got people duped, and it's doing the same thing even in sports now. And I just don't understand it. So
actually,
someone once said that it's going to take down not just America, but the entire world is going to suffer from AI, because someone's going to put something out at some point, and then it's just going to keep on rolling downhill. And that's when, supposedly there's going to be WW3 or something like that, because it's going to be too much and no one's going to be able to tell the truth from reality anymore. But what were you going to say? And then Riley, let's get your take on it.
Sorry to interrupt. And Riley, yeah. I think Mike Payton of A to Z Sports just put out a thing that highlighted the fact that Detroit Lions fans themselves are falling for these AI generated stories about Dan Campbell rescuing babies from a fire. Like literally, he just put out an article saying we got to be better about dissecting what is AI and what's not, because it was like Jameson Williams had a problem with Elon Musk. No, there was no background to it. That Dan Campbell had rescued children and then reunited with them 20 years later. No, not real, like completely fabricated stories that were made up completely by AI, with AI generated images that show Dan Campbell the same age 20 years ago as he is today, literally. And people are falling for it and sharing it and liking it. And these are our fans. Like, bro, we gotta be better. Riley, I know you have something to say about this.
Yeah, I'm just sitting here thinking, look, Dan Campbell is about as heroic of an individual as I've, come across in my life to this point, but he's still a human being, right? You can defy gravity. You can't defy age. You can't, you can turn the Detroit Lions into a winning football team. Does that necessarily mean you can save babies from a fire? I'm not going to put it past him, but yeah, for sure. It's crazy. I saw the play you're talking about, or the highlight, the video. And it was crazy to me because it was, I wonder why they didn't just take the picture of the actual image. I guess it's for lighting or background, whatever. But Saquon did it during the game. It was an amazing play. Like you said, you give him credit. I can't imagine if Gibbs or Montgomery or somebody did that. I lost my mind. I do that 100 times a game anyway, as is. But as far as the curse and the Madden curse, yes, I feel like it's absolutely real. So keep the Lions off of the cover of Madden.
Everybody vote for Chicago. Everybody vote for Caleb Williams. Right?
I feel like
just do it that way.
By the time we vote for Caleb Williams, he's gonna be on a different team. Ooh.
Oh.
Sorry, Mike because Fury. He won't be a Chicago fan. Oh man, Ben is done with him. I'm telling you. He'll be like, I need my own guy.
1 year, and getting somebody else.
I wouldn't put it past him.
I had to do it.
Oh man. I know we're gonna come back to Frank Ragnow in a few moments, but Terrion Arnold is set to have his sophomore season, and as they say, big time breakouts usually happen for second year players. Riley, you dug a little bit deep on TA, so talk to us, man. What's going on with TA, and enlighten us with this topic today.
Yeah, all right. So let me get started here. I'm gonna get all situated here with my good friend Terrion Arnold and get rolling here. So this has been something that's been on my mind for a little while now. The thought really sunk in for me when during the NFL draft in Green Bay, Will and Eric posted photos and a video with Terrion Arnold. When Will posted the video, I recall sitting back thinking to myself that while I didn't know who the newest Detroit Lions players were going to become that weekend, I remembered how excited I was last year when Brad Holmes made the move to trade up for and select Arnold in the first round. I had the distinct thought that if this football team is going to take the next step, if a team that won 15 of 17 regular season games is going to continue to evolve, that the new number 6 in Detroit is unquestionably going to be a reason why. So do you, the listener, think that Brad Holmes would today make the same decision to trade up for and acquire Terrion Arnold? Do you think that Dan Campbell, who is about to embark on his greatest challenge to date, in my opinion, as the head coach of this football team, looks at Terrion Arnold with confidence and belief in the player that he is and will be this season? According to Pro Football Focus, Arnold's rookie statistics graded him out as a 51.5 overall grade. That's not great. That placed him 179th out of 222 cornerbacks in the NFL. Now, Sauce Gardner, who many would say is the best corner in the NFL, had an overall grade of 87.9 as a rookie. That was good enough for first in the entire NFL that year. Gardner even managed to slightly improve on that number for his sophomore season, increasing his overall grade to an 88.6. Last season, Gardner's third in the NFL. His overall grade was a 70.2. He did play the least amount of snaps in his career last year, but despite his dip in his overall grade, you'd be hard-pressed to find somebody who wouldn't have Gardner as the very best or close to the best corner in the NFL. We all know statistics don't always tell the whole story with defensive backs in this league. Terrion's grade, as I mentioned, was 179th out of 222, but I'll simply ask you, are there 178 cornerbacks that you would take over Terrion Arnold today? We all remember the onslaught of penalties at the start of last year. Through the first 4 games, he was penalized 8 times. It was important to me then, and still is now, that despite the penalties, the Lions were winning football games. This was a rookie cornerback who was a first-round pick, who was drafted by a team that just won their division, that just went to the NFC Championship, and that just traded up to select him. When you really step back and think about it, that's a lot of pressure for a player to take on. The expectation was to win. That pressure only increased when, as the season went along, player after player along the defense for the Detroit Lions went down to injury. If you take one statistic from this piece I'm doing on Terrion Arnold, please let it be this. He had only 3 penalties in the final 11 regular season games. 3 in 11 games. 10 of those games, the Lions won. That alone illustrates that Terrion is teachable, that he can adapt and hold his own on a winning football team. He is a winning football player. What are some areas that he can improve? Well, I'm going to start with saying right here and right now on June 3rd, 2025, that Terrion will not go his entire season as a sophomore without an interception. I guarantee he will intercept a pass this next season, at least one. But even if he doesn't, Arnold's position coach in Detroit, Deshae Townsend, didn't intercept a pass until his 4th year in the league. He has the right mentorship, who is, in my opinion, helping emphasize the right things that will help Terrion in his development, and importantly, help him to continue to be a winning football player. Here is some of what Townsend said about the work he and Terrion are doing this offseason. Quote, Terrion understands how they're attacking him, and he found out about himself. What do I do best? How can I make those strengths stronger? And my weaknesses, what do I do now this offseason to make them better? And according to Townsend, an area that he and Terrion are focusing on is tracking and locating the football. Townsend said, as the season went on, you saw some of the pass interferences go down. But our next step is, how can we get the ball back to the offense? How can we transition from man to ball, from it not being just a pass breakup, but to an interception? That's one of the things that we talked about and some of the things we're working on to see how we can improve. Where and when do I take a peek? When I'm in phase, go ahead and look. Those types of things. Now Terrion understands, and he can play a little bit more and have a little bit more freedom to take a chance to go make some plays. I think it's important to note that Terrion did not define his play by his number of interceptions or lack thereof. Remember, Terrion led the SEC in interceptions with 5 his last year at Alabama. Intercepting the football is a skill he possesses. Terrion himself said, quote, it was nothing but experience. Like I always said, a lot of teams sit back and play zone. I had to go out there and challenge wide receiver ones, and I'm young, so I know I'll be the best corner in the league one day. Again, I'll state it unequivocally here and now. He is going to get an interception this upcoming season. Deshae Townsend also said, when you play man a lot of times your back is turned. So therefore, you're looking at the receiver. You're trying to transition from man to ball, which a lot of times doesn't go in your favor. But I think for him, it's just that growth. Being patient, they'll come. And when they come, they will come in bunches. According to Pro Football Focus, Arnold played 50 more snaps in man coverage than any corner in the league last year, and nearly 100 more than any rookie corner on man cover throws. Arnold allowed less than a 50% completion percentage and a passer rating of 75.8. The Lions this offseason brought in DJ Reed, who they know they can rely on to hold his own in the secondary. With the safety positions being held down by Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch, the pair of Reed and Arnold are obviously incredibly important to the Lions' chance of success this season in stopping the gauntlet of wide receivers they will face this season. Either of Reed or Arnold can be this team's cornerback number 1, and we know that Terrion Arnold has the size and ceiling to match up with the elite wide receivers in the NFL. I recall late last season when Lions head coach Dan Campbell, after playing and beating the Green Bay Packers at home in the latter part of the regular season, said that Arnold had just played his best game of the year up to that point. Campbell mentioned that players like Amon-Ra St. Brown, Penei Sewell, and Aleem McNeil all broke out during the end of their rookie seasons. After that game, Campbell said, quote, I feel like that's where Terrion's at. He's starting to push through this, and he's gaining valuable reps, experience. He's not letting the grind of the season weigh him down, and he's getting better. I believe in Terrion Arnold. I believe that he will show strides this coming season, and he will be a reason that the Lions will be in position to win the NFC North for the 3rd consecutive season. On May 23rd, Terrion tweeted out that he is, quote, keeping receipts on it all. There's no doubt in my mind that Terrion recognizes the opportunity that lies before him, and I'm banking on him being one of the best players on this football team. And if that happens, seeing him take a step closer to fulfilling his own prophecy of eventually becoming one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. So, Will, Corey, what are your thoughts? What are your expectations for Terrion in year 2?
For me, he's just got to clean up, some of the stuff that he did last year, the way that he started. And you mentioned a few things in that that I would have mentioned. So number 1, playing the most snaps as a rookie in man defense or, in press man coverage, like that's that tells you enough right there. They put him on an island. They were comfortable putting him on an island. And we're going to talk about someone's island here in just a few moments, but you put him in that position to win or to lose. It's 50-50. And I think that he did a really good job given the situation that we were in. Let's not forget a couple of things. Number one, the Lions were passed on quite a bit because we had big leads. When you get a lead, you're up by 15, 20 points. The other team is going to have to pass the ball a ton. When that happens, you're going to play this shell of, of coverage where some guys are going to be in man, some guys are going to be in zone, or at some point they could all be in a zone. And it's this bend but don't break defense. You're going to allow some stuff underneath. It happens. I didn't see Terrion really get burned over the top, but maybe once or twice last year, but it didn't happen with Justin Jefferson. He manhandled Justin Jefferson last year. It started, I believe, with Amik Robertson in that game, and then it switched to Terrion Arnold, I think, in the second half in Week 18. I saw a lot of really good bright spots out of Terrion Arnold's game. Yeah, to the point of all the penalties. Look, he was... I tweeted at him yesterday about that when I saw the receipts thing. I said, man, they had you on a bunch of ticky-tacky stuff, and they did. That stuff is not going to happen to some of the other cornerbacks in the league that have been around for a minute. He was a rookie. They targeted him. They being the refs, and they penalized him for things that probably wouldn't get penalized again. To the other point, 11 games with only 3 penalties. That's his game. And I think that that's where he's going to, I guess, jump off of this year is leaving off of where he was. I think he's going to start right there. I think he understands the game a lot better. It's going to slow down a lot for him in year 2. Looking at his stats, I mean, there's really nothing in here that's extremely bad outside of the penalties. The passer rating of 99.2, hey, at least it wasn't over 100. I can deal with that. I want to see that number probably drop 20 points, get it into the high 70s. Total pressures, that's not a big deal. Pass breakups, 8. That's pretty solid for a rookie who was in, 600 plus snaps in man coverage. In man coverage, 662 snaps overall. So I was extremely impressed by his rookie season. I think that he was, I guess, in my opinion, he was probably looked at by a lot of the fan base as a bust early on because of all the penalties. I didn't see that. I saw a guy that was going to grow, and I said it from the very outset when we drafted him. He's going to have some mistakes. Don't jump all over his back because, believe it or not, players see and hear what we say and what we write. Let him make his mistakes. Let him learn from them, and he'll be just fine. I think Terrion, like I put in the chat here, I think he's going to be a top 16 corner in the league, and that is a huge accomplishment to be able to bounce back in your second season to get to that level. I'm sure that he wants to be number 1 overall. But if he can finish in top 16 for statistical reasons, I think that is huge for him in his second year. And I think that's a really good place to be in year 2. So Corey, what are your thoughts on TA? I know you haven't been, around this team a ton, but I'm sure you know who Terrion Arnold is. What do you expect for him?
You had me, we talked about him a couple weeks ago. And so I did my research and I just remember watching his film, watching some of his highlights, and like to Briley's point about, guaranteeing an interception, he was in the right place multiple times. And I know that in the beginning of the season, he was getting a lot of calls, and that was because of his over aggressiveness. If I have a corner on my team that isn't afraid to match up with some of the best receivers in the league and be aggressive, I'll take the learning penalties. I'll take, those are good fouls to make, basically, right? In basketball, right? You don't want stupid fouls, but if you're going to make a good foul, then as a coach, I'm going to be okay with it. And I think Terrion Arnold at the beginning of the season was making good penalties, if there can be such a thing, because it showed that, he's not afraid of the challenge. And like you said, for a rookie corner to have, 50 more man coverage, reps than any other corner in the entire league, that shows what they expect from him, what his potential could be in the future, and that he did get thrown into the fire and get those real game reps that are invaluable for young players, right? The only way you can adjust the learning curve is to give them experience. And so oftentimes, rookies don't get that live game experience. And we heard Dan Campbell even say in his press conference, it's hard to develop guys during this period of time because there's only so much you can do. And the real development happens every single week during the season as they get reps, as they get better, as they see live action, as they see other teams scheming against them and where their weaknesses in their game lie. And so I think if anything, last year is a great learning experience for Terrion Arnold. We saw him get better as the season progressed. I would expect his man-to-man coverage to get even better. And I loved his physicality. I loved his quickness. I loved his patience. That was one of the things I saw in his coverage specifically, is his ability to be a counter puncher, to kind of read a release from the receiver and not give away his hips too early, not shoot his hands too early, but to play, as almost like a Floyd Mayweather boxer, right? You're going to keep your shell, and then you're going to react to the receiver and then cover him. And he was like a blanket, oftentimes in those highlights and pass breakups and things. And so maybe he's not getting all the stats of making the play on the ball, but if he's covering a guy and not allowing that dude to get a target, then he's doing his job. And I think that's like the underlying thing about a corner is, if they don't throw the ball your way, that is a great sign. And I think, as Terrion Arnold develops and continues in his career, that's going to be a thing that offensive coordinators are going to have to think about. And it's going to be in the back of every quarterback's mind, is like, what side of the field is Terrion on? Because that dude's getting locked up. So I think it's going to be a great year for him and his development. And it's another young piece of this team that is going to have a huge role and determine a lot of the success that we have or do not have this season.
So real quick, you just mentioned something that I tweeted out to Terrion yesterday. In that same tweet, when he was talking about keeping receipts, I said, 1, I'm missing somebody as a guest on the podcast. 2, I said, you're going to be locked up. And then I copied the song Locked Up by Akon. And so I'm curious if he even knew who Akon was because of his age. But that's what I envision for Terrion Arnold this year, is completely locked up on these receivers. He had the penalty, so what? But to your point, Corey, I think that when you're a corner staying in phase, you were a receiver, so you know how it is. When a corner is staying in phase with you, matching, just being a mirror to you and following you downfield, and is actually in a position to make a play on the ball, not coming down with an interception, because if he maybe went up with 2 hands versus 1, you catch the ball, versus him knocking it away or coming down with the interception. I think that's a smart move by him to only put up 1 and knock the ball away so somebody doesn't get it. That's number 1 for me. Number 2 is that mirror match, phase technique that he has, where he is just inside your hips and he's dropping you where you catch a ball, and he's not letting you get a ton of yak yards, which his stats prove that, which I don't have in front of me, but I know from last year covering this, his yak yards were minimal. And that's the same thing that I was saying about Amik last year, is he drop you where you caught that ball. And he's a wrap-up tackler, so he's not an arm tackler. So those are all great things to see from a rookie. I think he played well above his means and well above his experience level, being a first-year NFL football player. Man, sky's the limit for this guy. He's got a great build, phenomenal work ethic, great technique, and he's just got that bright, fun-loving attitude, man. He's always smiling. He's always upbeat, and that's what you want to see. The other thing that you would notice about him is his memory, right? Not football IQ, but his memory. He would lose it after every play, which is exactly what you need. You need a corner that does not remember anything that happened the play before, and he goes out and plays just like it's a brand new play. So you make a bad move, you have a bad rep, you go in and you do it again and you forget about it. You just move forward. Now, when you go back and look at the tape, you're going to remember it, and then you're going to remember what not to do next time. And I think that he made a lot of great adjustments throughout last season. Riley, let's wrap it up with you, since this is your topic. After, kind of what we've said, what is your wrap up here on TA?
Yeah, I think what you just said too, that to me, it takes so much mental and emotional strength and resiliency to really truly be able to, as you said, doesn't matter what just happened to play before. You're just, the only play that matters is the one that you're about to take on, right? And just the trajectory of his career, when I really started looking at the statistics, yeah, the numbers wouldn't say, oh, this was a surefire first round pick, but he was a starting player, a rookie on a team that won 15 of 17 games. It's just an impressive player. And I think that, there still may be some improvement for a Jared Goff. You might see, but how much better can Goff get? How much better can Sewell get? How much better can Amon-Ra get? Those guys are already very, very good football players. We hope to see Hutchinson come back and be where he was or even better. But to me, Terrion's the guy that has the biggest room to go from good to even better, eventually being a great football player. So I'm excited for Terrion Arnold, and I do feel like Brad Holmes would still make that decision today to go up and get him, and I'm excited
1,000%.
to see him too. Yeah.
1,000% he's going to take Terrion Arnold again. It was the right move. And I'm only saying that because I picked Terrion Arnold in that draft. So
well, then
it's a good move, Brad. It was a great move just because I got it right. I'm just kidding. If I got it wrong, I wouldn't have cared. He would have done something better. It's a good segue and transition to, let's do our what I call Build a Bear. I don't know why I call it Build a Bear, but let's build out our most elite corners. Now, I put a preface on this from 2000 and forward. I know you can use some GOATs. You're probably going to use some guys that are, prior to 2000, but
dang it. I did 2010.
Oh, you did?
My guys are going to be more recent.
So yeah. I screwed you up.
There were a couple guys that I was like, the board, I'll go newer, but I think that we'll be all right. I think everyone knows these names. They're pretty good.
Well, there's one in here that I know I didn't have any trouble using. And then when we're done with this, I want to get back into some tape on Frank Ragnow that you brought to my attention this morning. And let's diagnose some tape on Frank Ragnow, which you're calling like some of the best teaching tape out there. And we'll be highlighting Frank as, we get through, the season here. But all right, best corners ever to play the game. Let's get it started here. Let me start a new recording just so I can come back to this later.
Or the perfect corner.
Yeah, so like Corey was saying, I didn't mean to cut him off. The perfect corner. So that's what we're doing now, is the most perfect corner build by utilizing 11 agility factors and attributes such as size, durability, football IQ, speed, their zone coverage ability versus their press man coverage ability, run support, ball skills, tackling, route recognition, instincts and awareness, confidence, and trash talk. That's got to be in there too. Now, I'm not sure which of these attributes that Corey used, or if he used all of them, or what Riley used, if he used all of them, but I'm going to start with football IQ. And I'm going to go here because I think that football IQ is probably the most important. And there's a lot of names you could stick here. Matter of fact, I put football IQ next to like 6 of the guys that I have on my list because they all have it. To be the type of corner that they are, they all have the football IQ. But Champ Bailey, for me, probably had the best football IQ. Incredibly dominant, locking down receivers. But his football IQ, I think it stood out by the way that you could marry up all of these attributes, right? His football IQ and his awareness, his football IQ in the recognition of a route, the football IQ in, how he plays in zone coverage versus press man coverage. He excelled in both. And I think to be able to excel in both, whether it's playing man-to-man or dropping back in his zone seamlessly, I think that he had some of the best football IQ on the field when he was on the field. So now I'm going to roll to Corey. Corey, who did you have for best football IQ?
Yeah, so football IQ, I focused a little more on like not having the other, other places, but still having success, a sustained success on multiple teams. And that was Stephon Gilmore. He started with the Bills and then played with the Patriots really at his peak. He's bounced around to a couple more teams, but he always had really good route anticipation and understanding of where to be and when to be. That's kind of what he was known for. And he didn't have the best speed, but was always making plays on the ball. And so I put Stephon Gilmore. He's still in the league. Like I said, he's still bouncing around, probably not at the same prime, but and again, I said 2010s to present, so I'm a little more recent. But if I was building a guy, he's shown that he knows exactly what's going on and how to lock a dude up and how to be in position to make plays. Some years, 5+ interceptions, that doesn't happen on accident. When you're not a guy that's that fast, and you're covering dudes that are, you definitely have to have the football IQ to put yourself in the right spot. So that's who I put for mine. Yeah, that was it.
I liked it. For you, Riley, does anybody come to mind for you with football IQ? I got Champ Bailey. You had, was it Marshawn Lattimore, did you say?
No, Stephon Gilmore.
Stephon Gilmore. I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of these traits obviously could be interchangeable for him, but the image that comes to my mind is that sweet pitcher in Arizona with Patrick Peterson lined up against Calvin Johnson, and you can see the image of Calvin through Patrick Peterson's visor. And to me, that was one of the toughest opponents. I think Stafford threw it to him a handful of times that game, but the only one that Calvin really got was a slant that he took, 80 yards to the house or something. But Patrick Peterson, to me, was one of the guys that just seemed like he was in the right spots all the time, even against somebody like Calvin, who had the physical profile. But a guy like Patrick Peterson was a tough challenge for him.
Yeah, the other reason why I added Champ here, and I guess to kind of highlight a little bit of his career, 52 career interceptions. You have to know where you need to be on the field to be able to do that. You have to know how to bait a quarterback and recognize where the route, is going and what, the receiver has a tendency to do, and studying the receiver, off the field, in the tape room or in the film room, That's where that football IQ is born, right? It's born in the film room, and then you excel on the field with it. So, Champ Bailey, man, in my opinion, just an absolute brilliant corner. Rarely got fooled by double moves, but Champ Bailey, and then your guy was Patrick Peterson and Corey
and Stephon Gilmore. And some names in the chat,
all great,
that were really good. Charles Woodson.
Yeah,
obviously football IQ, played offense, so transitioning to defense.
Must be a U of M fan.
Yeah, exactly. And another one that was really good that I saw in there was Ty Law. Ty Law had a great football IQ. Yep. A little older, but yeah, definitely. We know.
I like the Mel Blount shout out in there. I like the Mel Blount in there. That's a good one by Mike P. Who else in here? Richard Sherman, another good one. You might hear some of these names here in just a few moments.
Yeah, exactly. You never know.
So next up, I'm going to go to ball hawking skills. Okay. Interceptions, when we think of ball hawking skills, tracking ability. Again, it all starts in route recognition, and it starts with football IQ. Knowing where these plays are developing puts you in a position to win. And for me, this name was just mentioned. Let me kind of go through. You guys are going to know who it is. But after lining up at both corner and wide receiver, this corner was primarily a corner in the NFL. He then returned punts later in his career. He was a Pro Bowler in each of his first 4 seasons. He played for the Raiders, appeared in a Super Bowl, then won a Super Bowl with the Packers. He led the NFL in interceptions twice, both times coming with the Packers, including picking off 9 passes and running back 3 for scores in 2009. He finished his career as a safety. Man, he bounced around with the Raiders, registering 5 interceptions in his final season in 2015. Any guesses?
I think the chat might have got it.
I'm the only thing I see in the chat right now is Marcus Newsom is the last message.
Oh,
do you see more than that?
Yeah, I do. Maybe you need to scroll down.
Yeah, that's it for me. That's all I can see.
We got a lot of Charles Woodson.
Let me go to
Rod
live
Woodson.
chat. Hold on. Let me change it to live chat. Let me end the thing on Terry and Arnold. That'll help too. Yes, of course it was Charles Woodson out of Michigan, right? Look, this guy was 6'1", 210 pounds. Brilliant guy, football IQ. Just elite ball skills and tackling ability. 65 career interceptions. Just one of the best ball hawkers ever. This guy could diagnose a play before it was snapped. He wasn't slow, right? 4.38 40. Definitely fast enough to keep up with any of the elite receivers. Very versatile. He could play zone and press. Just very physical. Good at tracking the ball. hybrid, obviously playing all over the place. Safety, punt returner, wide receiver, corner, did it all. Charles Woodson, best ball hawk ever to play the game for me. Corey, who do you got?
Well, use the same last name and go Rod Woodson, like the people in the chat were talking about. 71 interceptions, third all time, 32 fumbles, plus 71 picks. That's almost 100. That is over 100, right? Turnovers where we're ending up with the ball. That is a ball hawk if I've ever seen it, right? That is feasting and hunting the ball. And then, I mean, I know we're doing corners, but like you kind of have to mention it because when Bill Belichick has like a viral video talking about you got to know where this dude is on the field, then you've made it, and you probably are like the scariest person on defense, and that was Ed Reed, man. I know he's a safety, but like, dude, Ed Reed is such a ball hawk. Like when I hear the word ball hawk, I see visions of Ed Reed. Like, dude was just all over the field, diagnosing plays and just menacing offenses forever. So yeah, he's different, built different. But Woodson, yeah, I mean, 100 turnovers where you're getting the team the ball. That is great.
Rod Woodson. So I had Charles, you had Rod.
Yeah, Rod,
Ed Reed. This is probably not a good analogy, but when I think of Ed Reed, I think of someone concussed on the ground. Like, the dude was such a hard hitter. Yeah. He took the soul out of your chest. You know, the dude was incredible. Corey, who was the best ball hawker for you?
Oh, Riley, your turn.
I'm sorry, Riley. Yeah, who was the best ball hawker for you?
Yeah, no, those are great names. For me, the name that came to mind was Richard Sherman. I just remembered the don't ever try a sorry receiver like Crabtree against me, but because for that decade plus there, it seemed like Sherman was leading the league in interceptions. The most prominent member of the Legion of Boom to me, Seattle with those sweet jerseys. To me, it was just Sherman was somebody that I always felt like. And the Lions had Darius Slay, they had some good players, but Sherman was the guy to me where I felt like, gosh, I wish the Lions had a guy like that, in the Honolulu Blue. So for me, I'd go Richard Sherman.
Let's just be honest. This is not easy because I look at the list and I want to put everybody in these boxes that I'm talking about. It is so hard. So like when I put Charles Woodson's name down, I didn't just put ball hawk. I put IQ, run support. I think that he was great all over the field. I'm sure you could say the same for obviously for Rod Woodson, Ed Reed, Richard Sherman. Richard Sherman, quite honestly, probably was one of the smartest football players out there. Definitely could have put him in football IQ. So as you can see, these are interchangeable, and that's why we're talking about them. And this next guy, we're going to go press coverage here. I have IQ and speed also for this guy. This guy was known for shutting down top receivers with his press coverage. His wide receivers went to a specific place that there was no guarantee of a flight back home. That's right. When you went to Revis Island, there was no guarantee that you were going back home. Pro Bowler in 4 of his first 5 seasons. He averaged 4.7 interceptions per season over his first 3 years at just 5'11", 198 pounds. Darrelle Revis, for me, was by far the best press man coverage corner in the league since year 2000. Corey, I'd love to hear who you have.
Yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with Revis Island. And I think we talked about Richard Sherman. I have him from a different category, but he could fit in this as well. He really, with his, I'm going to give away what category I have him in. With his size, right? He did something different than a lot of other corners were doing. And so he was great in press coverage. The guy I really put for this category after, I could have put Stephon Gilmore, 2019 Defensive Player of the Year. Like, there's so many, but it was between, and this name is going to be a throwback, Aqib Talib. I just love the name. He was a beast in press coverage. But the real one that's still playing today, and he was recently in headlines, Jalen Ramsey, man. That dude, he really he could jam and run with anyone. He had the combination of size and speed, and he just played like with an edge, right? He's a little bit of that smack talking swagger, right? He had the technique to back it up, and if you knew you had Jalen Ramsey on you, and he'd follow guys around the field, right? If you knew you had Jalen Ramsey on you, you knew you were in for a long day, and you better have the Devontae Adams set of release moves because my guy is jamming you up and is not going to let you go. all the way down the field. And so, again, these are more recent guys, and so some of them may still be playing. But yeah, if you're going back in time, a lot of those could be played. I think Revis Island is for sure. When you have it's kind of like when you get mossed, right? Like when you become synonymous with a whole term in the NFL and everyone knows who you're talking about. Like, are you going to that island? We all know it's Revis Island. So I think yours is the winner. But if you want to go somewhere else, like Jalen Ramsey has bounced all over the place, then maybe we can talk about it.
So which corner did you put there? Was it Aqib Talib or Jalen?
I'll go Jalen. I went Jalen there. Like Aqib, I love the name. I got to bring him up, and he deserves the respect, but because he's not going to pop up anywhere else in the list. But Jalen Ramsey was my guy for the press man.
All right, and you, Riley, who do you got for best press man?
Well, for me, when I was kind of looking this up, the name for me is Deion Sanders. In fact, one of the things I found when I was doing this with Sanders was the guy that could be credited with the advent of the quick jam or jump jam, where the DB rushes to the receiver at the snap of the ball to get a powerful jam, nullifying the route. Sanders is the guy that he could qualify for agility. He could qualify for versatility. He could have just about any one of these. I love Jalen Ramsey, and I'm excited to see where he ends up playing. But for me, I'd say Deion Sanders here.
So the reason why I took Revis too is when you go back and do a little bit of research, one thing that popped out was obviously football IQ, which plays a big part in this. He studied receivers meticulously and knew their tendencies. And then he would adjust mid-game. So whatever you got from Revis maybe in the first half, you're not going to get that in the second half. So he changed his approach. And I think that when you're able to do those things on the fly or at least make a change throughout mid-game, it obviously gives the receivers a problem, right? Because they're not expecting it. And now he can jump that route, snag that ball, and just force you to have a rough day at the office. Master of press coverage for me. He used strength and technique to jam receivers, to your credit, with Deion Sanders at the line of scrimmage. I don't know why we don't see that a whole lot anymore. That is something that I've been jumping up and down on for the Lions, is jam these dudes. You know, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, if you just jam them at the line and get their timing off, they're going to have a bad day. Week 18 against the Vikings, they did it. Go ahead.
I could tell you why you don't jam a guy like Justin Jefferson or Devontae Adams, because when you miss, you're effed. Like, excuse my
of
French.
course.
And it is, and this is where I was talking about being a counterpuncher.
You got to shade, right? You got to have someone shaded, so when you do jam, you've got Kirby right there to pick him up, or you know what I mean.
But now, yeah, and so
Devontae, I wouldn't jam. He's too big.
It's a give and take, right? Like, if you got a guy that can do it really well and be physical at the line, you're right. If you could throw off a receiver's release by a second, you're throwing off the entire timing of a play. But if you miss, and receivers have gotten so good at release moves and making one thing look like something else, when you miss, you're really setting yourself up for failure. And so that's what I liked about Terrion. And if you watch a really good press man, like they might not be overly aggressive. They might be pressed up on you, but basically mirroring your release move, right? And saving their punch for when you decide, oh, I'm going outside or inside, and then setting it. So it is a very unique technique to get right. And when it's done, correctly, it's almost unbeatable of the press technique. But it is extremely, extremely difficult to get right, especially against some of those guys. Like the best ones in the business are the best at releases. And actually saw Devontae Adams teaching Puka Nacua some of his release moves on a video yesterday. I got scared for week 15. I'm not gonna lie to you. I got a little nervous. I was like, dang it. Puka's already good, and now he's even gonna get better. We have to guard both of those guys in one game.
You know what's crazy is Brad could have picked up Puka. And I've heard fans talking about it, yelling about it, saying Brad messed up and missed it again. Can we be honest? Nobody knew who the hell Puka Nacua was. Nobody. I got lucky pick. That's what that was. It's not denying Puka's ability, but there's a reason why he went late in the draft. So let's just be real there. You know, that's
the only people who knew that Puka was that real were the guys who were at Boise State when we were watching him dominate us when he was in college. He had a game and I was like, bro, who is playing receiver? Like, who is that guy? And he went crazy against BSU. And so it doesn't surprise me. But of course, no one watches the Mountain West, right? Come on.
Well, we do now. We do now. Look, I always loved watching Boise just because of the field color.
Yeah, it is very unique.
I wish more teams would do stuff like. I wish the pro teams could do it. I wish the Lions could have a blue field.
Did you know it's copyrighted? It's trademarked.
What?
Yeah, that if you want to do like a colored field, it's like you have to get it cleared through Boise State to make sure it's not too close to their blue.
Oh, the blue is the blue color.
The blue,
okay, I got
and it's trademarked. Yeah, the blue specifically.
Okay, but not coloring your field. It's just the color of it.
Yeah, specifically. Okay. Yeah,
that makes sense. I was like, what? Who on earth has to get something approved to go put paint on their field? Like, wow, how did they get away with that one?
Yeah, no, can't be blue.
All right, so up next, we might have heard this name already, but zone coverage. So this individual currently as who does he? Is he on Football Night? Who's he? Richard Sherman. I'm just gonna go there. He's the best. He's the best zone cover guy in my opinion. Yes, he played press man as well, but he was best in zone. He thrived in Seattle's cover 3 scheme. He used length to disrupt and you know the passing lanes that he would shut down and jump in front of. I also put size here and football IQ. Sherm is known to be one of the smartest football players on the field. Very cerebral, and size definitely at 6'3", 205 pounds. Taller than most corners. It gave him an advantage in jump ball situations, but zone coverage thrived in that cover 3 scheme. So that's why I put Sherm in zone coverage. Corey, where are you going with this? I know you're not going Sherm, so where are you going with this one?
No, I'm not going Sherm. This guy, and the reason he fits the zone scheme is because the team that he played for was really known for their specific type of zone. He has a twin brother that played on the other side of the ball. He is Rondé Barber. Yeah, they played the Tampa 2 scheme, and he fit perfectly in that. He was always around the ball. Tiki had to learn how to hold it high and tight. He was known for, he running around like with the ball up here after he had the fumbling issues. Rondé Barber was always known for picking it off and taking it back, man. And that happens a lot when you're in a zone scheme and the quarterback doesn't see you, right? You're dropping back into coverage, and all of a sudden he's there instead of a receiver. And I grew up watching Tiki and Rondé, and pretty cool to be twin brothers, and both of you make it to the league at different positions. And yeah, so I put Rondé Barber as my zone coverage guy.
As soon as you said twin brother, I knew.
Of course,
I knew it.
Of course,
I knew it. Riley, who do you got, man? This is zone coverage guy.
Yeah, when Corey said brother, I thought, is he trying to find a pair of brothers between that can challenge he and Ahmed for overall football talent within one family. But for me, I'll go with the guy that's got the best coverage grade in the NFL since he entered the league. That's Sauce Gardner. So since 2022, Pro Football Focus, he's got a 91.9 coverage grade. Again, that leads the league since 2022. Sauce is amazing. Doing that bit on Terrion again. I knew Sauce Gardner was great, but I wanted to compare their statistics. And what Sauce did as a rookie was incredibly impressive, and he's upheld that. So give me Sauce Gardner here.
I love the Sauce Gardner pick. The only bone that I would have there, and the reason why I didn't go, is like I probably could have put Sauce in press man because the Jets ran primarily press man and not a whole lot of zone. Thankfully, like Aaron Glenn is going there as the head coach because he's going to run a lot of press man, and Sauce is going to fit perfectly. I think it's still a good pick. I could have easily put him, like I said, into press. What do you think of Sauce Gardner here, Corey?
I think Sauce Gardner's good. I don't know. I mean, he had so much hype around him that I don't know if he's backed it up yet. I'm the jury is still out for me on Sauce Gardner. He's kind of like Caleb Williams to me a little bit, right? Like these guys that come into the league with all this expectation, and he's good, don't get me wrong, and we can look at his grades and things, but like, is he impacting the game like, like Revis did back then. I don't know if he's at that point yet, and obviously different type of scheme, but yeah, like I want to see if the Sauce Gardner has the sauce for the staying power, right? Like I want to see if it's because yeah, the hype. Sometimes when guys get hyped, I guess my expectations get more lofty, and I expect this dude to just be the guy, and he is. But with the Jets having the difficulties that they've had, right? Like I can't give him that title yet, but I think he is a great football player, and I've seen him get beat a couple times too, though. So yeah.
I can't remember who's been on the other side of Sauce, but it makes you wonder why they don't throw at him. His rookie year, yeah, I don't think he had an interception his rookie year, but they didn't throw at him at all.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, and it makes you kind of wonder, well, if you're not really getting an assignment, that if they're not going to throw the ball to you, how do we know how good you are, really? Yeah. You know, I don't know why they'd be so worried of throwing at him. I don't know. Maybe I'd have to watch some film and see what happens when the ball gets thrown his way.
We know DJ Reed was one of the guys that was on the other side of him too. And going through the Pro Football Focus defensive back stats, I found it interesting too that DJ Reed actually finished with a higher grade than Carlton Davis last year. So when I was doing the Terrion bit too, I'm looking at it because Carlton was a great number one last year. Somebody that during the season I was like, oh, let's keep this guy around. But you know, I think they paid him $12 million less. I think Davis got $60 million in New England, and the Lions brought in DJ Reed for $48 million. You know, different players, but can't underscore that DJ Reed's also a very good football player as well.
I'm excited for DJ, man. That dude is so active on Twitter. It's not even funny. Constantly putting stuff out.
Yeah, he posted something yesterday like Detroit, it just feels right or something, and I just know. Yeah. You know, that's
wait till the game start and he starts feeling the love, man. It's
or the wrath.
Here's my question about DJ Reed, and you guys, you'll have to give me your confidence level. So you just talked about Sauce Gardner. I think Sauce Gardner is probably 6'1", if I had to guess. I didn't look it up.
I think that's right.
DJ Reed's 5'9". Okay, those. You cannot deny that is like, we're going to probably talk about size here coming up and why it's important. It is at all. And I love a short guy. Don't get me wrong, right? Like I got a rep for my people. Okay. And, but I knew that like, hey, I'm playing in the slot because guess what? You're not throwing me a freaking head topping ball. Like I mean, I could, cause I could jump, but like inevitably the laws of physics, right? And like just general measurements matter at some point when you're playing against guys that are 6'5", 6'3". I know you could be a pest. You could be in like you were talking about, Will, being in that guy's pocket and making things difficult. You know, Meek, I think last year, right, did the same thing against Justin Jefferson and shut him down. So I'm not saying there isn't a specific way to win, but like at the end of the day, does 5'9" scare you? That's my question.
Okay, so we'll pivot for a sec, right? Little sidebar here. DJ Reed was pegged to the Lions early in the free agency process, and there was a lot of writers saying that it would be a good fit in Detroit, and he's obviously someone the Lions are going to look after, and I'm like, yeah, not for me, and that's because of the size. Like I was a little bit worried because I've always been in the boat that measurements matter. Now, I will say this. If you have a very well put together team, you can have a guy or two that don't meet the measurement standard. Okay. I think that holds true for any team out there, any sport. You can have, depending on how many players are on the field, one or two that maybe don't meet the standard. For me, it's always been defensive ends. I need 33-inch arms or better for defense, or for 33 and a half, depending on which kind of end you are. If you're the big speed end, that really doesn't matter a whole lot because you're using speed more. If you're the big bull rush end, you probably need to be able to disengage. Arms need to be a certain length to be able to do that, depending on your strength level and other pass rush skills that you have. Defensive tackle, same thing. I need those 33-inch arms because of the same purpose of being able to disengage off of blocks, be able to laterally reach to catch a runner, all those things. You know, I think it does matter. Corner, for me, like 6 foot was the cutoff. 5'11", 6 foot was the cutoff. 6'2" was the cutoff for me too. The taller you got, I felt like your stride got longer and your short area quickness it wasn't as good. Some rare athletes have it all, where they could be 6'2" or 6'3" and have it all. It's rare. It hardly ever happens. Out of 1,000 football players in the NFL that play corner, maybe 2 or 3 have it all. You know, where they're 6'3", 205 pounds, like Richard Sherman, who happened to, you know, have the best size and still have, you know, fairly decent quickness. He also ran a 4.56 40. So he slowed down because of his height. Sauce Gardner's 6'3". And I don't remember his speed, but I think he's fairly quick. But to your point, I guess to your question, does size matter? It does when you're coming into the league. It doesn't when you're already in the league and you've proven yourself. DJ has proved himself. He's been in the league now for multiple seasons, and he's been one of the best corners in the league. So his size doesn't concern me anymore because he's gone up against the best receivers out there. And imagine, like to Riley's point, he's on the opposite of Sauce, and he's getting all the targets. And he's doing well with it. So I think it's a good matchup. You've got the, you know, standard with Terry and Arnold, size-wise. I think, you know, you've got the standard there for size. And then on the other side, you've got Amik and DJ, both a little bit undersized, but they've proven it. So I'm not concerned.
I'm glad that you asked that question, Corey. And because as soon as you asked it, I was like, all right, get my popcorn ready because I know Will's about to drop something. And I put a quote that he said there in the chat. I like that a lot. It doesn't so much matter. It does when you're coming in, but once you're a proven player, it changes a little bit, right? And just looking at DJ Reed, since he became a starter in the 2021 season, he's played 14 games, 17 games, 15 games, 14 games. So the only thing for me when I think of size is, does it become an issue where for some reason, if you're missing games, he doesn't miss games, he plays. And so hopefully that trend continues and we see, you know, some health. I'm excited to see him on the other side of Terrion, especially if Terrion makes that jump this year where he's got the more prototypical profile. But DJ Reed's a dog, Amik Robertson's a dog. We got Kirby, we got Brian Branch. We'll see what Rakestraw does this year. I'm excited.
Yeah, some of the hardest corners I ever went against were my height, and because they could match me, you know, with my quickness, with my agility, I'll take a bigger guy, because I know I have some things that, you know, I could beat him with. With a guy that was my height, I was like, bro, like this is a little more difficult. And so I totally understand. And I think to your point, saying like when you've proven it at the NFL level, I'm not so worried so much as you know, those measurables, because you've already shown that you're successful. So if you know how to work and use the skills that you have at your disposal, then, you know, more power to it. I'm excited to watch him in Honolulu Blue.
So here's something I would implore you to do. I don't know if you've heard or, you know, watched this one yet. Go back and listen to DJ Reed's press conference after he came to Detroit on a new contract this offseason. I think you'll be surprised. Cool. He embodies everything that this team breeds and breathes. When he said, one of his quotes was, or someone asked him, you know, at your size, are you still proving yourself or something like that? Or do you feel like that? And he said something to the point like, I've been in the league for this many seasons. I've been one of the best corners and I'm still having to prove myself, but I do it every day anyway, or something to that effect. It was a pretty powerful statement. Obviously I just did it zero justice. So I apologize, DJ.
Well, I think you did it all the justice because I know exactly what he's talking about. As a guy who was always the little kid, like part of my identity as a football player was proving to the other people that I could do it, right? Like proving to, and it would happen every game. I remember in high school, it was like, who's the other team's parents being like, somebody get that little kid. And that was like my favorite thing to do because like, why can't you get him? Like they were just like dumbfounded that their kids couldn't tackle me. And it's like damn right, I'm good, right? Like you better put some respect on my name. And that's what that chip on your shoulder, it is so valuable. And I don't think it truly, I think it separates like good from great. At the NFL level, every player is good, right? But like what makes you great? If you have that chip on your shoulder, that's why my brother is going to be great. And I'm just, throwing my brother in there. But like, dude is so hungry to be great. And he wants to put on for everybody. Like that. If you have that, it matters. And if it comes because you're 5'9" and everyone will always doubt you because it's built in to your stature, more power to them, man.
So I'm going to continue the sidebar for just one more question because, being undersized, just, the statistical measurement guideline that people have put out there for, I mean, let's just be honest. There is a measurement tool for every position, right? That this guide that the NFL looks at. Are you the standard or not? What separates you if you are not the standard? If you're either too big, right, or too small, or just the right size, as I like to say. Maybe you're just the right size. Being a little bit smaller as a wide receiver going up against a taller corner, I would think that you have an advantage. One, if you're a little bit shifty and have some good speed, but two, you can get underneath that wide receiver and force them into committing a pass interference penalty. Right? I mean, you can get underneath them and literally get inside them and get them all sorts of discombobulated and they get back on their route, their back foot, when they step back and they get unbalanced. That's where your advantage is. You get them on their back foot and it's curtains for a taller wide receiver because they can't recover. So I don't know. I would think that you would have an advantage at some point. Okay. We'll get off that now. So let's get back into building our perfect corners here. We did zone coverage. We did, we did press coverage. We did ball hawk. We did football IQ. Let's go instincts and awareness. I kind of lump those two together. I think a lockdown corner, no matter what defense you're playing, what scheme you're in, you have to have great instincts all the way around. You have to have awareness all the way around. You have to, see what's happening before it happens. You have to recognize the route. You have to get an understanding of what these wide receivers, tendencies are, when they stab their left foot. Are they really going to drive to the right? Or is there a little shimmy shake that they're going to go double move you up to the top? You just don't know. So instincts and awareness, that takes over the game. And when you combine this with football IQ, where you're studying receivers and adjusting, Patrick Surtain, to me, is probably one of the best at instinctual awareness, putting himself in a position to win and doing it every down. I'm really enjoying watching Patrick Surtain grow. I think he's one of the best in the league right now. So who's your awareness and instinct guy, Corey?
It's funny that Patrick Surtain, he's the second, right? Yeah, his dad played, I believe, and was very, very good. I picked another guy but this guy was the dad. Now his son's in the league. That was Asante Samuel. He was well known for jumping routes, and although it's a risky play, right? He made his career off of it. And it was because he was always 2 steps ahead of the quarterback and the wide receiver. This is what you're talking about, right? That awareness and kind of understanding what's coming. Asante Samuel Jr. Is coming up playing football now, I believe, and his dad was known for his awareness and that. The other guy I thought about, because he had 10 interceptions in 2020, was Xavier Howard. That dude was just really, really good at being in the right spot. And especially with contested catches and stuff. He was really good at tracking, and that comes from, awareness and IQ.
Riley?
Yeah, for me, and those are both great answers, but this is for me where Darrelle Revis comes to mind, because the idea of Revis Island, and I remember in the 2010, 2011, and right around that time too, one time there was a pregame thing where they were doing the bit, they do going into the game, and Revis was joking about kind of being bored because opposing quarterbacks were just ignoring his side of the field. So if he's on this side of the field, I'm not even going to throw over there. So to me, that would be an indicator of, I'm not even going to roll the dice against his instincts. He's just waiting, and he's going to make me pay the one time I challenge him. So I'd give I'd tip the hat there to Darrelle Revis.
Okay, so Riley, you have Revis, and Corey, you have
Sante Samuel.
Sante Samuel. All right, I got to look something up here.
While he's looking that up, let's see some names in the chat. Yeah, Mike Ditka's Fury's going with me with Darrelle Revis. Kevin Barr says Troy Polamalu. I think he was kind of I think of Polamalu as like a linebacker safety hybrid. Who doesn't think of that play where he times it perfectly and gets the sack there? Onry U of M dad, Jalen Ramsey. And let's see who else we got. Brandy Coffee says Maureen. No, I'm just kidding. I thought she
Maureen.
Lockdown. That's her best cornerback. Yep. Let's see. There were some others here. Some good names. I saw Xavier Rose as a name earlier. I can't remember who mentioned it, but I remember him with Minnesota. Yeah, there were some tough cornerbacks that, and I always felt like the Lions were always drafting offensive linemen to protect Stafford. And then I always felt like these teams in the NFC North always had these great cornerbacks that, Stafford had to throw against during that time frame.
Okay, I'm good now. I just had to look something up for later. I want to get into size. We didn't do size. Now, I know that we've spoken about size a little bit. So what is the perfect size for a corner? And to me, measurables are a lot. Like I just said, I think that I believe in the fact that size does matter in the NFL to a degree. The statement that I made earlier, like it matters when you're coming into the NFL. So as a prospect, you're entering the draft. That is where a lot of, the scouts, the analysts, the GMs, the coaches, everybody involved is going to grade you immediately on that guide, that NFL guide of this is the prototypical size for a quarterback, a corner, a safety, a defensive tackle, whatever it is. That's kind of where it starts. Where it ends is the film. And the film is what matters the most. Beyond everything, the film matters the most. But size is where it starts. Now, I was going back and forth on this and trying to figure out, okay, is 6'3" the perfect size? Well, no, because in my opinion, there's not a lot of them that are 6'3". Playing corner. Maybe a couple of safeties are, but not a whole lot of corners. There's very few, in my opinion, and you guys can fact check me on this later, but I'm going just strict from memory. Not a whole lot of corners in this league, even over 6'2". So I dig a little bit deeper, and I'm trying to find the best average that is, between 5'9", where we've seen some of the best corners, and 6'3", where we've seen some of the best corners. And I landed on Xavier Howard, which is someone that you just mentioned, Corey. And Xavier Howard is a corner that is known for his impressive defensive skills. He is almost the embodiment of all of these different attributes that we've talked about. Almost the perfect corner. 6'1", 203 pounds, right? But where I'm extremely intrigued by his play is his arm length. And you have to have longer arms to be a corner. 31.25-inch arms. Not the longest arms by any stretch of the word, but it is for corners. When you look at the average corner, I was looking up Rod Woodson, 31.5 inches. Patrick Surtain, 32.5 inches. And Sauce Gardner, 33 inches. So, yeah, there's some corners that have longer arms, but when I'm looking for that perfect body size, height, weight, speed, arm length, everything, it's Xavier Howard for me. Corey, I'll go to you. Who's your size guy?
I totally understand your theory and the reasoning behind getting to Xavier Howard. Like, you're looking for the best combination, but if we're talking about building the best one, That means I get the speed of the fastest little one, and I get the size of the big ones. I'm going big, brother. I want my 6'3" Richard Sherman with his 32-inch arms. I want to put that size with the speed of the next guy that I'm going to talk about, right? And the IQ. We're building the perfect one. So you could take your 6'1" Xavier Howard. Shoot, you could take whoever you want. I'm taking Richard Sherman. That dude changed the game. There was not I don't remember the conversation around big cornerbacks before Richard Sherman. And when Richard Sherman came into the league and the way they used him in Seattle, not only did he change the way cornerbacking was played, but the way that the referees had to call penalties, because what they were doing was they were sitting back in this cover 3 zone and using him almost jamming in space right downfield and contacting them at like the point of routes. And with his frame, and with his IQ too, right? Being a former receiver in college, he was able to make plays on the ball and just really be so disruptive with his size, with his frame, with his wingspan, both at the line, at the catch points, and whether that was, coming down with the ball himself like a receiver and playing the ball. Being 6'3" didn't hurt at all. And obviously he like fell off a little bit because when you're 6'3", you don't get to keep your speed as long as maybe when you're 5'9", right? Like Tyreek Hill stayed faster longer because he's a little guy. Those top end big dudes that have the speed, it seems to diminish a little quicker. But if we're talking about just size here, I'm taking Richard Sherman because he is the prototypical big body cornerback for me.
I hear you. Noted. All right,
I'll take those extra inches.
Yeah, Riley, Riley, who do you have?
We're not that other channel. Sorry. Oh my goodness.
It's making me feel like I should have saved Sherman for this one, because I don't know. You're thinking of the most physically imposing cornerback. I guess for me, I would go with Woodson here, Charles Woodson here, because I remember so many times where there were at least 2-3 times back in the 2010s, that decade, where he jumped a pass that Stafford threw that I just thought, how did he cover that much ground in such a short period of time? One of them, I think, was the Thanksgiving game that ended the game. So I'm sure there's taller, faster, stronger guys, but I'll be boring here and I'll go with the U of M, Charles Woodson, Heisman winner.
Oh, the old Heisman winner, Charles. All right, I like Charles. So I think that Charles is let me go back to my Charles stats here. So yeah, when you look at Charles, he's fitting exactly for me like Xavier Howard, 6'1", 210. Definitely has good speed at 4.38. But to me, it's size, it's durability. Maybe Xavier Howard doesn't have the best durability. I don't remember him missing a ton of games. And I don't remember Charles Woodson missing a ton of games. But from a pure size, I like Charles. I think it fits. And obviously Sherman fits if you're thinking of, who's the biggest, tallest guy out there. All right, so I'm going to do 2 more because we only got a couple of minutes left. I want to get to these 2. Did you say you wanted to do speed?
Sure.
Okay.
We can.
I'm going to do speed and then trash talk. Okay. So go ahead with speed, Corey, and then I'll jump in.
Well, since I know what the category that's coming is, I'm saving that category because this guy supposedly is that fast too, but that I'm going to skip and we'll save him for a second. So the guy I put for speed, and he wasn't necessarily the fastest ever, don't get me wrong, like he's decent, he's fast enough, and there's one play specifically that I remember that stands out because of just the way he did it, the way he executed it. The player himself is Denzel Ward, okay? And the play I'm talking about is when he slides under the blocker, right? Do you remember this play? He comes up, slides underneath the receiver to the blocker, pops back up on the other side and makes a play. One of the most amazing things I've seen done live in a game where it's like, you just have that instinct to do something. He did it and executed it perfectly. it showed like it was an amazing football play. Just one of those things that you just don't see, kind of like Saquon's reverse hurdle over a guy. You see it and you're like, did he really just do that? Did he really just evade a tackle by sliding underneath the blocker? That is impressive. And anybody that can do that, and not to mention he's got like 4.3 speed, you know, and that's arguable what other people are running, but the way the game speed, right, translates. And that play itself showed me that not only in the speed in which he's running, but the speed in which he's diagnosing plays and reacting to the plays, that was next level. So I'm gonna give Denzel Ward this claim for me.
Okay, so Denzel Ward.
I know, little throwback. I mean, not throwback, but like a little random.
So we might be able to fit a third one in here because that's terrible. I have this gentleman probably in two spots for me. So when I'm talking speed, like you said, you're talking size. You want the best ever, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I also went back to 2000, whereas apparently you didn't.
I did not.
Deion Sanders, fastest man alive, supposedly ran, 4.2 or sub 4.2, never really clocked, ran it out of the gym and left into a limo and went home. And you heard him talk.
Shador is the best quarterback ever, too, right? What? Sorry, no, it's sorry. Oh my gosh, sorry.
But I will say this though. Look, he was just talking about it to Shiloh in some viral clip. He was talking about, look, you run a 4.2, whatever. Shiloh said he was going to run. He said, I'll buy a brand new car. And he says, I ran a 4.2 for breakfast, is what Deion was saying. The dude was fast, like lightning fast. And at 6'1", almost 200 pounds, the fact that he was running, that fast was incredible. And he played all over the field. So Deion Sanders for me was speed. I think it was a no-brainer. What do you got, Riley?
Yes, this one's a little tricky for me because, again, it's not like, if it were the offensive side of the ball, there's the speedsters that come to mind. For all of these guys to be elite, even be names mentioned in this category of cornerback, they all had to have some level of pretty similar speed, I feel like. But for me, I can't go this whole thing without putting Champ Bailey somewhere. So I'll go Champ Bailey. He had let me see, I just had it up as well from my notes here. 40-yard dash, 4.28 seconds. He was excelled in track and field while he was at Georgia. One of these star athletes. So I'll go Champ Bailey here for speed.
And who was yours again, Corey?
Denzel Ward.
Denzel Ward. That's right. Okay.
I love the comment. It said about that play that Denzel Ward did. It said he teleported like 6 feet. Yes, if a guy is teleporting, that's the speed I want. I love it. I love that.
I gotta find this video.
I heard Deion is actually running a 4.19 now. He's getting faster without toes.
It's crazy. Isn't it crazy that these guys are losing body parts that used to make them what they were?
That's insane to me.
Yes. And you're blessed with it, and then it's taken away from you. But I think it's given him great perspective on life. I think it has made Deion a more humble, individual, and I think he's doing great things. I really do. I love what he's doing. Okay, so two more here. Trash talk, and I've got to throw in run support. I can't walk out of this without doing run support. So let's go run support real quick. For me, this one was very, very simple. This guy has been mentioned already. He does fit many categories, whether it's speed or football IQ, which he's the lead at. He's 6 foot, 205 pounds, very versatile. He excelled in both press man and zone coverage, but he was excellent in run support. He was like a linebacker out there and did play linebacker at times, and that is Rod Woodson, one of the hardest thumpers on the football field, excelled in tackling and run support. So for me, that's who it is. Corey, who do you have?
Yeah, my guy is a little bit of a hybrid too. He plays in the slot a lot, and maybe you can call him a safety, but this was Antoine Winfield Jr. He will come up through the alley and lay a hit. He is fearless, and whether he's in the open field or like I said, coming up through an alley and securing like leverage on a guy, you know that you're tackled. Like Antoine Winfield Jr. is coming, like, bro, you're 90% of the time you're not breaking that tackle. So that was my dude, and one of like the pure corners. If you're going outside guys, Jair Alexander. I think he always did a good job coming up and helping. But yeah, I did Antoine Winfield Jr.
And Riley.
Little
And by the
slot
way,
run.
I am going to put some graphics together. I'll probably put it up on social media somewhere, and I'll post it in the post on the YouTube. That I'm going to put these together, and then everyone can kind of pick what they think. Who do you have, Riley? For
I
run
could try to
support?
scramble, try to find somebody different. I'm going to also go with Rod Woodson. That was the name that I initially had here. So copying and pasting your answer, but for the same reasons, right? You can't go wrong with him. So I'll go Rod Woodson at that spot.
Okay, last on today's list. So we pretty much got through all of them. We got through tackling. I think we did not really get through route recognition. We got through run support, which is kind of the same with tackling. Very similar anyway. Trash talk. I'm interested to hear what you guys have, but I already said this name. Deion Sanders, again.
Yeah.
One of the best trash talkers on the field. So he didn't just talk it, right? He backed it up. And I think that's a unique skill to have, that, you can call it, you can call your home run like Babe Ruth did, or and back it up, or you can call that you're going to get a pick and back it up, because that's what Deion Sanders did. Corey, are you in the same boat? Who do you have?
Yeah. When you told me trash talk, and then you said that Deion was, what it was the line you said? He got back in his limo. He said something. I ran on whatever for whenever. Or
Yeah, he just said it the other
idiot.
day.
Dude.
Just the other day in a video, it was a month ago. He said, I ran 4.2 for breakfast.
If he's still trash talking without toes at this age, then you know what he was saying when this freaking helmet was on. Oh my goodness. You honestly, like, trash talking happens during the game. You would never expect it, but like some guys that are really respectful in the media and to reporters and in their personal lives, get on the field and become straight a-holes. Okay. Deion was the same way all the time. He was just going to talk himself up, and he was probably going to talk himself up to the receiver and then shut down the receiver, right? Make a couple plays on the ball, score a touchdown, run back a punt, do whatever. And he was never afraid to tell you how good he was doing it. I think that's some of the best trash talk, is when you're confident in yourself and your abilities. Like you said, the ability to back it up. If you can't do that, then your trash talk is non-existent. Phillip Rivers, dude, some of the best trash talk ever, right? But like a very different style of trash talk. Deion was in your face, prime time, right? Like, he's gonna let everybody know. And I think, yeah, like that is a guy that you got to think about, not just for his physical, characteristics, but for his mouth. That's for sure. And it could have gotten him in trouble in his playing days. It didn't. It might have gotten his son in trouble a little bit during draft day, but he'll have to speak his own trash talk on the field. Yeah, we'll see.
It's funny you just mentioned the name Phillip Rivers, and you're exactly right. Trash talk at a different level, because that man would get hit, he would get sacked, and then he would get up and start saying, "Yeah, man, good hit." But who also did the same thing was a Colts quarterback. I can't remember his name right now, who retired early.
Yeah.
Andrew Luck.
Andrew Luck did the same thing.
Yep.
Same thing. Would get up and just talk about stuff. Would make these guys feel like crap. Like, I just laid wood all over you, and you just got up smiling, talking about my kids. What are we doing here? And that's what he would do. But Corey, who do you have? Or, I'm sorry, Riley, who do you have for the trash talk?
Yeah, this is one that Richard Sherman would have been good here. Jalen Ramsey would have been good here. But the guy that I think of, because to me, it was such a short-lived kind of peak of his career, but he was the equivalent of what Steve Smith was on offense. For me, it was Josh Norman. He was constantly talking, and it pissed me off, because I got a friend, shout out to my good friend Trevor. He's a huge reason why I love football. And being from Utah, we didn't have a team here, so his team by extension became the Carolina Panthers. That's part of why I picked the Lions as my team, because I wanted a team that had never won a championship either. But yeah, I liked the Panthers initially till I picked my own team. And then with them being good, Trevor was also very cocky. And so it just made it worse. Like Cam Newton and Josh Norman. So I just didn't like Josh Norman, but I just remember him talking all the time, and he seemed to piss people off. So I'll go with Josh Norman.
He was good for, like in 2015, that dude was the epitome of a playing corner. And then I think he got traded, and then he was never the same.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But when he was good,
Okay.
He was great.
We are
He would
up
let you know,
against
too.
Yeah, we're up against the clock. I want to bring in this play real quick that you were talking about, and then we'll skate out of here with our final 30s.
Yeah, I could diagnose this play for a long time.
Oh no, this is the
oh no,
the Denzel
that's
Ward.
that one. Look at that. Oh my gosh,
Super smart.
dude, what a play.
That's insane. That fast.
I love that. Diagnosing the quick screen, right? Seeing the leverage of the blocker, making himself a small target, and then securing the tackle. I mean, that's speed on different levels, right?
Yeah, it's the processing that blows my mind.
I know.
It's the processing there that is probably the most important aspect of that play. And then we have this one too that you wanted to talk about today. Let me roll this.
We don't have to. We could talk about it tomorrow if we want.
Okay,
we can give Frank his flowers tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do some more. We'll do some more Frank Ragnow tomorrow. Okay, final 30. We'll start with you, Riley, and then work our way back.
Yeah, great show today. These guys, yesterday, you guys did a phenomenal job. I'm excited to be back again tomorrow. And again, I'm banking now on my guarantee that I made earlier. Terrian's going to back up for me. He's getting that pick this year. But it's fun to be on, talk Terrion Arnold, talk the Lions, talk Frank Ragnow, Build-A-Bear cornerback. And I hope everybody has a phenomenal Tuesday, and go Detroit Lions.
Yeah.
Corey, for you.
My quick 30. First, happy birthday to you again, Riley. Hope you enjoy your day. And then secondly, I just want to thank the chat for yesterday. I gave a shout out to my brother, Ibrahim Hassanin, right? And I can't tell you how happy that made him. Like, I talked to him later that day, and we all get to have YouTube every day, and we get to, experience American culture and understand like what social media is. And I don't know if you guys remember the first time, like, you saw somebody you knew on TV, or got a shout out or a tweet from somebody you really respected, and what that made you feel like. Dude, he felt like $1 million, and to be able to do that and provide that to him, and see the smile on my dad's face. And then he called me back like 5 minutes after he watched the video, and then he tells me, Cody, tell them I'm going to work out. I will send videos. I will send updates like you were asking, Will. And I'm like, dude, he really did care a lot. And like, being able to do that for him was amazing. So I just appreciate the platform and appreciate you guys shouting him out. And yeah, we're gonna stay on top of that. But yeah, it's cool to have perspective sometimes, like on the Frank Ragnow stuff, remembering that he's a human being. On the Ibrahim things, like, remember there are people out there that really do appreciate, the little things. And if we can take a moment out of our day to help somebody feel that, like, that's a win for us. And go out there and do something nice for somebody, make someone smile. You don't know the impact it might have on their life. And you don't know what other people might be dealing with. Another thing that came out in the news recently was John Brinkus, the founder of Sports Science, passed away. And after a long battle with depression. And I grew up watching that show and hearing like some of the best data points you ever heard before data was even a thing was on Sports Science on ESPN as a kid. And to hear that, we lost a guy like that was so integral to my childhood is tough. And so don't forget, people are people, and you can impact people in a deep and meaningful way just by saying hi or giving them a smile or telling them that you love them. So appreciate you guys. Love you guys. And it's important to remember that and keep perspective.
Well said. I appreciate that.
All right. So for me, and yeah, good stuff, man. Good stuff. For me, you said something about getting a tweet or some sort of a shout out happened this year. So, I mean, not my best of all time, but when Daniel Jeremiah goes in and likes your stuff and comments like that's big for me, because I just met him at the draft and was able to interview him. And so I put something out, and then he went and liked it, and I was like, wow, like, cool, man. Like, he actually took the time. He didn't have to like it. He didn't have to say anything about it, but he did. And so I thought that was great. Makes you feel better, right? Makes you feel that, you're doing some good things in life. Here's what I want to say, I guess, for my real final 30 is Frank Ragnow and the fan base turning on Frank, and now turning on JG. from what I'm seeing right here, people are saying that it's Jared Goff's contract that just railroaded Frank Ragnow out of town. That is not reality. The Lions have $40 million of cap space. They could have absolutely done whatever they wanted to do for Frank Ragnow. I am not going to think anything different than Frank Ragnow retired because of what he said in his post. But it's not Jared Goff. He has nothing to do with this. What he does have to do with is, like the, thumbnail shows today, JG's going to have a different guy hiking him the ball. It's going to be different for him. It's going to be different for this team. But like we always do, it's next man up, and we get to it. So we'll be back tomorrow morning. We'll get into more conversations as we do every day. Appreciate everybody here. Appreciate you guys on the panel. And that's it. See you guys in the morning. Probably go Detroit Lions. Take care. Bye-bye.